This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The chair will call upon public speakers at the appropriate time. Each public speaker is requested to state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Public speakers who wish to speak in person should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Public speakers participating by Zoom who are wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of any written correspondence would like to speak during the meeting, they should raise their hand or submit a public speaker card. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
All right. Thank you. Deanna, can you please conduct roll call?
Yes. Member Barnes?
Present.
Member Buckman? Member Burke?
Present.
Member Brian Harris?
Present.
Member Samantha Harris?
Here.
Member Ibarra?
Present.
Member McDonald?
Present.
Member Nestor Brush? Member Okonkwo?
Present.
Member Sanders?
Here.
Member Noya?
Present.
Member Schlevin?
Present.
Thank you. Member Thompson?
Here.
Member Toth?
Here.
Member Mitchkoff? Member Shelton? Vice Chair Birdwell? And Chair Clark.
Here.
Okay, we have met quorum with Member Buckman, Member Nestor Brush, Member Mitchoff, and Member Shelton absent. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Is there anyone wishing to speak during public comment on an item that is not part of the agenda? If so, please submit a speaker card or raise your virtual hand. Deanna, have we received any written in-person or remote public comment?
We have not received any written in-person or remote comment. Thank you.
Okay, that concludes our public comment. Before we move to the next item on the agenda, I just wanted to add in, because we had asked before, do we have anybody who's attending the meeting on Zoom? Besides who's also in the audience?
We do have Jamar Stamps, Jim Donnelly, and someone from Independent Living Resources, and Gabino Aredo. Oh, and we do have one person that just raised their hand.
Okay, would that be for this public comment then?
I think so. I've asked them to unmute.
No, this is Gavinato on the City of Richmond, just mentioning that I'm also online. I don't know if it shows my name.
Thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like we have 4 people on Zoom attending the meeting. Thank you.
You're
So
welcome.
the next item on the agenda is the consent calendar, which includes the summary of actions from our last meeting, which was February 23rd of 2026. Are there any changes or comments from the committee on the consent calendar? Okay. Has anybody from the public asked to speak on this item?
I do not have any remote public or in-person comments.
All right. Do I have a motion and a second to pass our consent calendar?
I make the motion right here that we pass the consent calendar, and I'm Brian Harris.
Brian Harris.
This
All right,
is
we have a
Member
motion.
Ibarra. I'll second.
Thank you. Deanna, if you'd like to do the roll call.
Member Barnes?
Aye.
Member Burke?
Aye.
Member Brian Harris?
Aye.
Member Samantha Harris?
Yes.
Member Ibarra?
Yes.
Member McDonald,
Aye.
Member Nestor Brush, Member Okonkwo,
Yes.
Member Sanders, Member Noya,
Yes.
Member Schleven,
Yes.
Member Thompson,
Yes.
Member Toth,
Yes.
Vice Chair Birdwell, and Chair Clark.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously with everyone that's present.
Thank you. We'll now move on to the regular agenda items, where we have three. The first item is informational and will be presented by Halima.
Thank you, everyone. Deanna, can we get the slides up? And then for the slides, are you going to control them? Or do I tell you next? Okay. So this is going to be a recap of the Accessible Transportation Strategic Plan Workshop, which many of you attended, but I just wanted to share some of the formal key takeaways, outputs, and the feedback that we received, as well as get feedback from all of you on the cadence of this workshop for the future. So as you know, the last workshop that we had, or may not know, the first one that we had was in 2024, and then the second one that we had was just this last month in 2026. So I did want to open up for discussion to hear if this is something that we would like to do every year, every 2 years. So curious to just have that discussion, and then I'll share a little bit about the outcomes from both the workshops so far.
Okay, any comments? Member Brian Harris.
I do hear, is there something, is there a set of bylaws or rules, operating procedures that says that needs to buy annually or annually?
No.
So it's up to us whether we want to do it or not?
I just want to get input, right? CCTA can do it every year, we can do it every 2 years. Does it feel like it was a meaningful convening, something that helped us figure out what the plans are for this year? And I can also go through the outputs first if you prefer to hear what came out of them.
Have we received any public comments from a survey or, commentary boxes from the public is what they're looking for, if they'd like to see it annually or if it was helpful to them?
Not from the public, but we have received feedback from attendees. So maybe I'll go through my presentation first and then we circle back.
That's fine.
Okay, so
Thank
let's go
you.
to the next slide. So first I'll talk about the 2024 workshop. This was the first time we did this workshop, and it was a one-day workshop from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. There were about 22 attendees. Some of you may have been there in 2024. And the topics were really focused on understanding the challenges and opportunities of accessible transportation, creating a more effective coordination system and program, understanding the challenges that folks had with service delivery, best practices for overcoming challenges with accessible transportation. I believe that was done by a guest speaker. And then there was a vision crafting workshop that was thinking about what the coordinated entity vision statement would look like. And I'll go to the next slide. Some images from the session. It also did take place here at the CCTA. I think it was the same room that we used for the workshop that we did this year. And then if we go to the next slide, we have one of the outputs of that session, which was a workshop vision statement that talked about the vision for the coordinating entity and the Office of Accessibility and Equity. So those were the outcomes from the first workshop. Was anyone there in 2024? Show of hands. Feel free to jump in as well if there's anything you would like to add from how beneficial you felt it was or wasn't. From 2 years ago? Yeah. If you remember anything.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's been a while, and I can't really think of the takeaways. It is nicer to have a 2-day situation just to allow for more discussions and review of all the different things that are happening in the county. But yeah, I'm sorry. I was
okay.
there, I just can't recall.
Totally fair. Elaine?
I was there, yeah. I'm Elaine Welch from Mobility Matters. I'm our alternate cellos in Europe right now. I'll tell you this, I'm going to be very frank. I don't even remember this workshop, and I know I was there. Now that, and I'm not trying to be smart.
Yeah.
This last one you just did for 2 days, all I could think about is I couldn't wait for the next one. And I think that's the difference is, no, seriously, where we're headed now feels so forward-moving that it wasn't that there was something wrong then, we were just kind of rambling around. And we tried all these things, but I didn't walk out of this workshop feeling the commitment and joy that I felt from yours. And I would like to see you do it every year. I think particularly with the momentum we've got, I think 2 years is too long. I think we need to keep going, emphasize all the meetings we're having, and keep each other up to date. I got some incredible connections during that meeting, people I hadn't seen in years, people I just met that day, and some really good networking came out of it, as well as incredible information. Thank you.
Glad to hear that. We can go with the 2026 then. I guess we'll go to the next slide. It was a while ago, so I am asking a lot to jog your memories. So for this year, we did 2 days, and it was from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. We had about 40 people each day, including some virtual attendees. We covered the ATSP progress to date. We got some feedback on what the future of the ATSP work can look like. We talked about travel training and what a countywide program could look like. We did an information kind of session on Optimat, which has, information and referral tool. And we also talked about various funding sources that are available and also utilized for funding accessible transportation. And then we also had a session on accessible emergency evacuation planning. On the next slide, I have some feedback from attendees on what went well and what could be improved. I forgot I had a little video. Yeah, we got a little reel out of it as well. Also, a lot of really nice photos. But yeah, we'll go to the next slide. We have some feedback that we got. So we did a survey for day 1 and day 2. I think total of 10 responses across both surveys. And we heard, like, in terms of areas for improvement, people wanted more space for visioning and breakout activities. And there was also some access concern in terms of, like, the physical space itself of, like, moving around. And I think we had more people than we even expected to show up, which is always amazing. But it means that we need to have more space when we're doing these group activities around the room. Audio, we had some issues. I think there were some inconsistencies, and this room, you can speak into a mic and it will project. Those rooms don't. And so we'll need to figure that out for the future. There are definitely some Zoom and technical issues. I know the breakouts, some of them were glitching a little bit. And then there was also just a desire for more time for discussion, more time for talking. And then some of the highlights and the positive feedback was the guest speakers. We had Dr. Victor Pineda from the Center for Independent Living, and then Ryan Manriquez, who's at MTC and also a board member at the Center for Independent Living. People also highlighted seeing each other and connecting, as Elaine mentioned. It was good to do that. And then folks also shared that it was good to have clarity about accessible transportation programs, resources, what's available, especially for those who are kind of newer in this space and were like, whoa, I didn't know there was this funding source I could use. So that was the feedback that we received. We'll go to the next slide. A bunch of really nice pictures from the event. I think I shared the full link with all of you for the library if you want to see the full reel. And then we'll go to the next slide in terms of the summary of outputs from this workshop. So this workshop informed and is going to continue to inform the countywide travel training program. We want to bring that back. And so I've been working on putting together a sketch of what that program could look like based on the feedback that we got during the session. And so at some point soon, I will come back to you all with, here's a program concept. What do we think? We also got some feedback on what could be improved in the Measure J Claim 15 form and process. Nothing that will be implemented this year, but something for us to consider for future cycles, and how to make that process smoother, especially for the staff who work on those forms. We also initiated some early discussions on coordinated strategy for 5310 funds for the county and what it looks like for us to all have more discussions about it before we apply. And then we got information on the early efforts on accessible emergency evacuation planning that will inform the RFP that Danielle is working on. We got feedback on the ATSP work plan and strategy and what areas we should be focusing on for the next 1 to 3 years. And then there was just, I think as Elaine said, there was a renewed energy and excitement that really felt good in terms of moving forward and having more collaboration. And so the next slide outlines some of the strategies that we covered in the workshop and that we will continue working on in some of the general high-level action items for each of them. So for Optimat, we will continue working with our partners to create a working prototype. Right now, we have a dummy prototype with data that's not necessarily up to date or accurate, and so we're working on creating one that is more accurate so then we can start getting user feedback. We will work on putting out a call for projects in spring of 2027 for the TNC Access for All program, and that call will be informed by the feedback we got during the session at the workshop where people shared, here's areas we want to see prioritized, this is how we should be scoring projects, and so that will directly inform the new call for projects next year. For travel training, we got a lot of feedback on what a revamped and launch for a program could look like. And so again, we will come back to the AAC with some updates on that, with the hope of putting something out there into the world in the fall to get it started, and we could do like a phased approach. There's a lot of talks about train the trainer programs and use of volunteers and kind of a hubs and spokes model of how do we actually pull in all the existing resources instead of trying to create new ones. And then we also talked about the LIFE program, and we are working with all of our operators to understand more about how that's been going. It started in 2023 with Tri-Delta being the first to pilot, and has continued, and getting more feedback from what the user experience has been like, and see if we can increase more use and improve the way that it's structured. So we're currently gathering feedback from all the operators on what that could look like. So those are kind of our focus for this immediate upcoming year. And more to come as we continue to have this AAC as an entity to move us forward, and also as we engage with our communities on what the needs are. So a lot has changed since the ATSP was done in 5 years ago. So that's it for the workshop recap. If there's any other thoughts or folks want to input on, again, sounds like this should be an annual thing. But if there's other comments.
Member Sanders?
I have a question of the TA. Is there a part of the TA that gathers data, demographic data about the area that we're serving?
The TA?
The Transit Authority.
Oh, about CCTA.
CCTA.
Are we gathering
Ye-
demographic data?
Yes.
Right now, we are working on some engagement with our TEP process where that might happen. And then MTC also produces a dashboard based on direct user data, so we have some sources.
May I? Go ahead.
So we do public engagement as part of our countywide transportation plan, which are long-range planning efforts. We've been doing surveys for the past couple of years. Like you mentioned, we're starting our expenditure plan engagement outreach as well. And then as part of like all of our transportation modeling exercises, we keep up on all of this, yes.
I'd like to make a suggestion then, that before any further meetings of this nature are held, that someone within the Transit Authority create updated demographic data, perhaps starting from the last census that was taken, and update that in terms of movements, population movements within the geographic area that we're serving.
We have all that. Would you like us to come back with a presentation sharing some of that?
I think it's basic to answering questions about how we can better serve the public. I think it's the most basic thing. And I don't think that having the workshop before we have the data makes any sense. I think that we should have the data to know so that we know what sort of issues we're dealing with. I think the data should also include what changes have occurred in the population base since the last, since the last meeting or report. And I also think that the members of this committee would be perfect to provide updates from their own bailiwicks. For example, if BART has a problem, has a serious problem, we should know before that meeting that it's likely that we're going to have a service slow down or shut down. The same thing with bus service and with service from private groups. Let's say, for example, that Rossmore, in the meantime, where there's a large population base, stops a portion of its transportation service to its people. We should know that before the meeting so that we can consider and provide remedies at that meeting.
Yeah, thank you. I think we can make a note of that and then see what information we can provide, and happy to do a recap. At the ATSP workshop, we did do some demographics of what the overall population would look like in terms of people with disabilities, people over 60. We can also try to do more regular updates. And then I do think also it could be worth looking at the MTC Bay Area travel study. They did one from 2019 to 2023, and they just put out those numbers. So we can also do just a quick recap of that one as well.
I think that's the second step.
Yeah.
That once you have your demographic study and the changes from the last demographic study, that you go to people like the MTC and you say, what are the other jurisdictions, the surrounding jurisdictions, doing about these problems? And it seems to me that the CCTA could and should be providing this information as a preface to the gathering, the gathering, whether it be annual or biannual, so that we're all working with a decent set of facts.
Yeah. Thank you.
Member Harris?
I
Brian
have a
Harris.
question here. Back to that right there, page right there on those 4 topics from the focus right here. Is there a way to make sure that we don't forget to do them by maybe assigning them to our subcommittees and breaking them up, and that way we can work on them? And it's also a starting point for us to begin.
Yeah, I'll continue to provide updates. Some of them are, they all have like work streams and tasks on my project workflow. So they will definitely be getting done. There's not going to be any concern about those dropping off. But I think the working group that we have for the ATSP is really the entity that can be more involved. And I don't know if that subcommittee has met yet. It could be a good time to start talking about getting that together. But that subcommittee could really work more closely. So if there's an interest to say, like, I want to work closely on this particular project, or I want to have more input, yeah.
Member Welsh?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a coordination question. You know I support the centralized entity, and now I do. I'm not sure I always did, but I do now. And I came out of this workshop, like I said, very excited, took a lot of notes, came back to my staff and said, okay, here's our piece here, and we're going to follow this. And then right on the heels of that, I went to an RTPC meeting where I did a presentation on a grant application I was putting in, and heard a presentation from one of the bus companies on travel training. I immediately went into a state of confusion and thought, wait a minute, they have every right to do that, and because we're still going to be functioning independently in many ways, but I guess I'm asking CCTA in your office, somehow a way to know what we're all doing, and I know you want to, and not to tell us no or yes, but in a coordination sense, because as I heard this provider, they did a great presentation on it, but I thought, wait a minute, how does that fit with what we just talked about countywide, and it left me perplexed. In addition, and I just want to add this in, Debbie's very familiar with this, we're all in competition with each other in these grants. We all compete. It doesn't matter that my program's good and yours is good and yours is good, but we compete in a fruit basket. And when I saw this, I thought, wait a minute, so how does this feed into what we might be doing with travel training for the whole county? And how does this go into a competition with the funding that I was asking for, which wasn't about travel training? It just left me a little bit confused, and I'm wondering if you could address that.
Yeah, thank you for naming that. There's definitely, I think, some pieces in terms of coordination that we're still working out. And that communication relationship building is going to be a part of that. One of the steps that I've taken is reached out to all of our operators to schedule quarterly meetings so that we can all be in communication about the strategies. And just this last month, we had 2 meetings where we went through line by line every single strategy in the ATSP. And we heard from the operators on, where progress has been made. And then also where we need the community-based organizations, like where their role is, because there's a lot of things in the ATSP, like there's accessible bike share, right? That's a whole different program that a community-based organization may be more suited to do. So we kind of went through that to talk through what's happened, what needs to happen, and then who needs to do it. And that was really helpful to start getting us on the same page. So there's, I think, in time, hopefully we'll be more coordinated on strategy.
Member Toth?
So, thank you. I want to go back to the demographic conversation because I think it's important, and maybe Drennan has data that she can share with us, but understanding, for me, one of the things as you were talking that sort of pinged for me is where are all of the areas of Contra Costa that are not within the 3/4 mile or 1.5 mile, depending on the transit provider, right? So the ADA says you must live within 3/4 of a mile. That's the floor, not the ceiling. And some transit providers, I know County Connection was 1.5 miles outside of a fixed route stop at some point. I don't know if that's still true. And I don't know what Tri-Delta. 3/4. So 3/4 of a mile, and I don't know what you are. You have no limits. No limits. Westcast goes everywhere. So what are the areas in Contra Costa geographically that have no fixed route service, therefore they have no paratransit service? So where are the people with disabilities and seniors in those areas that have no service? I think that would be a really important sort of data point for us to know and understand, in addition to just the larger demographics. We know when the last census data came out, the California Department of Finance said that in the next 50 years, we were going to see a 298% increase in the population that's 85 and older. Like, we have that kind of basic demographic data, but like, where in Contra Costa are those humans, and do they have access to paratransit, or do we need to have and then solutions for that population? So to me, it's a little more granular than just the basics, I think, could be helpful. And then I wanted to say that 2 days for workshops, it's a lot of time to chunk out for people who have full-time jobs. But when somebody like Elaine Welch goes and says, I'm waiting for the next one, that really says something about what was all involved in that. And I will tell you, Ryan's presentation, the 17-minute one that you pulled out and separated as a video, I shared on Facebook and tagged every single elected official I know who either sits on their board or who sits on this board, who sits on an RTPC board, Regional Transportation Planning Committee, because we're not acronyming, right? No, I'm practicing out loud. That kind of information is what the average Joe is missing. And it's why it's the ableism and ageism that isn't intentional. It's practiced by lack of information. And so it leads us to this state where we're in here as all these different human beings trying to figure out tiny pieces of the puzzle to make a continuum of transportation. So I think part of, beyond the workshop, although that was amazing, imagine if that presentation happened in front of the CCTA board. Imagine if that presentation happened in front of the legislature. Imagine if our transit providers could follow that up with, and here are all the handcuffs to all the different funding streams we have access to. Like, so painting this full picture of Because this is a community coming together with different strengths and access to different things to try and fix different pieces of the puzzle when we have brokenness from the federal to the state to the regional to the local levels. So we should be looking at how we elevate, not just solve for you need a ride, but how do we solve for systems change that impacts on a broader scale? And so I think that too needs to be part of that education, that policy work, that all of those things work together with also finding solutions, because us finding solutions here isn't going to create change everywhere that needs to happen so that he can travel outside of Contra Costa.
Yeah.
So I think keeping in mind that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Member Barnes.
Thank you. All great comments. I do believe having data will be, it's going to be imperative for this group so that we can build on top of that. I think it's important, for example, for us to know that Tri-Delta Transit covers 225 square miles of eastern Contra Costa County. We provide paratransit service all the way in Discovery Bay. But there are gaps, to Member Toth's point. And so for us to at least have a baseline of what those gaps are, this group will be able to make better informed decisions on how to move forward. My second point, sorry. I know you're going to do a TNC call for projects. Going back to my data point, it's important for you to know what transit authorities are also doing with TNCs currently. And so to your point earlier about not trying to recreate the wheel, if we can help support what we're already doing in the county financially, or just operationally, it'll be beneficial for the for this whole group. So just keep that in mind. Let's not just focus on what we can do new. Let's also focus on what we're already doing and how we can make it better.
Yeah, I mean, we don't need to create a brand new service. If you already have the service, and that's what Try My Ride was, right? You already had the service, and then that funding helped bring in additional vehicles and expand the service
But
area.
even outside of Try My Ride, we have agreements with Lyft, Uber, United Taxi. We're taking people to medical appointments, to dialysis already. And so any way that we can continue to bolster that program, I think would be important.
I mean, just to kind of follow up on that point and the question that Elaine answered, I think us starting to put those quarterly meetings together with the operators, I think even just that, going through the list and saying, okay, why are you asking us about this? You know, it wasn't as blunt as that, but it's like there's things that, and the other things that, to Rashidi's point, things that we're already doing, things that are being done on a regional level that maybe the county don't need to be, or CCJ don't need to be directly involved, well, be involved in for sure, but they don't need to have that oversight. They don't need to be directing it, looking to manage that program because it already exists. So I think it's just that it's working together. And I mean, I like Debbie, what you said. I like your point about it's not just the here's all the gaps, but also here's some of the constraints around that. I think if we all understand them, I think we can work together better than.
Yeah, because we have a great ecosystem with a lot of community-based organizations. We also have cities, right? So there's a lot of people in the system, and then we can see what the gaps and kind of match to what entity can take that on.
I think it's a good conversation. I think we've gotten a little bit away from what was just kind of the feedback on the actual workshops themselves, how they went, and, moving future. And it sounds like that maybe, again, those meetings that you're having with the providers are the ones, like you said, you'd be giving reports on the ATSP and all those different items, and that information can come out then as well. Okay. Member Sanders.
Not only are all the points that were made, as far as I'm concerned, very good, but we should be going farther in some regards. I don't understand why we're having problems in this area, and I'm talking about a geographic area, supporting BART, for example. To me, that's a real life and death issue for many people, getting them sufficient funds with which to work. And it seems to me that what's coming out of these workshops should also be publicized, because I don't think, Debbie started to tell you about the need for publishing all of this, to communicate. I think if the general community understood what you're trying to do here in terms of enhancing the transportation availability within the county and within the general metropolitan area, I think BART would have less of a hard sell on its request for additional funds.
Are you speaking to the regional measure?
I'm speaking to the regional measure.
Yeah, and also through these meetings, right, all these presentations are now public materials. We can continue to provide more of that information and make that available. And also, these discussions are public. So that offers us another avenue. But I think it's definitely important to have more information. I'm also going to be working with our communications team to update our website. It's been long overdue to share more about what's happening, maybe what's not happening anymore. And so definitely agree with you that more communication to the public is important.
Just a quick shout out. I don't know if any of you have recently been to the CCTA website, but if you go to the CCTA website, on the landing page is accessible transportation. You click on it, it's the whole page, all the resources, all the everything. We've never seen that. I mean, I shouldn't say never. 24 years my butt has been in this chair, and I have never seen accessible transportation on the landing page of the Transportation Authority. So I just wanted to give a big shout out to CCTA, so thank you.
It's going to get better too. So thank you, but it's going to get better. We have work to do.
Okay. Do you have anybody else on the committee that wants to give feedback on the workshops?
Hi.
Member Noya.
I do. I just wanted to say yes, maybe a bigger space next time. We had like almost double the amount of attendees, which was wonderful. It was. And I enjoyed the guest speakers, so that was a nice addition. And there was one other item that I just forgot. What was it? Bigger space? I forgot. I'll let you know.
Thank you.
I had one too. I agree it's hard to get out of the office, for sure, for 2 days. But I also agree it was kind of nice to have it for 2 days, just because you could absorb information, gather your thoughts, you're meeting people, and then come back and have really kind of like meaningful conversations. So while it is more time, I think it is possibly more effective. So that's
Okay.
my.
Thank you.
Okay, do we have anybody from the public that would like to speak on this, either in person or virtually?
We do have one person from the public, Gabino.
Hello again, my name is Gavin Arredondo with the City of Richmond. Just like to thank everybody who organized the event. A lot of our team is new, so it was inspiring. The keynote speakers that usually we don't have access to every day. And also to meet our colleagues, even though San Pablo's right next door, we got to connect with San Pablo, BART, different folks that we're still following up on. So I think it was successful, and annually would be good. And if you ever need a bigger space, we have the Richmond Auditorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have anything in writing? Any written comments?
We have one more comment, Jim Donnelly.
Great.
Yeah, this is Jim Donnelly, Emeritus Member of the Advisory Council on Aging and also past Chair of the Senior Mobility Action Council. I attended both the workshops the 2 years apart. This one by far was much, much better. And as Elaine said, I think I have much more confidence that something will happen and things will move forward after this workshop. So kudos to Halima and everybody else that put it together. Now it's up to us to work with everybody and move it forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. And I will also double down on the Richmond-San Pablo connection, since I'm from San Pablo. It was great. And yes, we're still actively engaging in that, so that was great. Good. Okay, the next item is another informational item and will also be presented by Halima.
So this next item is just to give you all an update on outreach and communications that I'm working on. We are working with an outreach contractor that we just onboarded. It's Next Steps Marketing. I don't know if some of you might know Thea Selby and her team. They've organized like the Move Bay Area convenings. And we are working with them to create an outreach and engagement plan to have them go out into the community and start building relationships with members of the public, with staff who work at senior centers, DMVs. I know that came up also at the workshop, that just let's post up at the DMV so when people lose their license, they know what their options are. And so I wanted to share that with you all, to let you all know, first of all, and second of all, to get your feedback and input on any items that you would like us to leverage through this. So, you know, Elaine, for example, offered to share the Way to Go Contra Costa booklets that we can take with us. You know, we would love to promote the LIFE program, the One Seat Ride program, all the things that we are doing. And also to get your input on where they should be going, if there are priority locations. And I think to Debbie's point of, you know, where are the areas where there aren't service or where there isn't coverage, right? We can send this person there. They'll be joining us for like a pilot 3-month period to see how it goes, and then we'll see if it makes sense to continue or if we need to make any adjustments. The goal is to have them out at least once a week at a location in person where they can connect with people, and then also hand off relationships to me. So if there are people that they felt, you know, this is someone who's going to be really involved in the community who can give us great ideas, or this is a staff person at a senior center who wants to be more engaged, then I would be able to have those one-on-ones with them and make sure that the relationship is staying within CCTA and that we're continuing to hold that. So I just wanted to share that update and get feedback, and, you know, if there's materials you want us to include in that outreach when they're tabling, when they're going out to spaces, please let us know.
Do we have any comments? Member Welsh.
Thank you. I have a question. Love the idea. And with the outreach, are they going to be collecting information as well as giving out information? The reason I'm saying that, one of the things that came out of the workshop, tying that again, is when we came back, I said to my staff, okay, here's the things we learned. Now, here's what we can apply right now without stepping on anybody else's territory. And we set up a gap analysis more formally with our transportation information and referral helpline. It just so happens this 2 weeks, my person who primarily covers that is on vacation. So I'm sitting there writing gaps like crazy. I hadn't even really thought about it that much. And I'm wondering, as this person goes out, if they can listen to people like on Bethel Island, I'm thinking specifically, wherever, and say, or Rossmore, you were just saying, what are the gaps? What are we not do? What are you not getting that you need? What can you not get to? Is it no weekend service? Is it whatever it is? Because if they can kind of collect that, just gather it without solving it as they're out there and bring that back, I think that would be phenomenal. And then what I'd like to see happen at the end of it is all the providers involved in those areas sit down and we do a sharing of gap analysis. I've got a list a mile long, I'm sure other people do as well, and with someone who's been out there getting it directly from the people who are asking for service. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for naming that. So I will have them take a 10-question, very brief survey. So if they don't get a chance to talk to everyone, they can at the very least say, here's a survey, I'm going to leave it here. Comment card, so if someone doesn't want to do a survey, but they just have one thing they wanted to say, they can write that on an index card and we can take that back. And then the contractor will also have to take notes on just the verbal conversations that they have. And the goal is for them to do a monthly report back and summary of the conversations, and then anything from the survey data, so that we have that information. It's really, the goal is listening, and it's understanding what's going on. And down the road, we can see if it makes sense to do the action part, but right now we just need to understand and listen. So yes, there will be a lot of report outs, and those monthly report outs I can make available to the AAC. Yeah, and it would also be great to hear from what you're hearing as well, and put all of that together, because it's all these puzzle pieces coming together to form a full picture of what are people in the community experiencing, and then also what are the providers hearing and experiencing. So I'm sure there's two different sides of that story.
I'm sorry, if I could add one more thing. You're absolutely right, but it's not only what I'm finding, and I kind of knew this anyhow, it isn't just a service is missing at a certain time somewhere for some people, but I'm also learning that people who refer, like to us and to others, don't have the correct information. I had somebody call me today and ask me for a gurney van ride for her husband on dialysis, and I had to start from square one, and I said, where'd you get the idea we do that? And she says, oh, the provider told me. They gave me a list of transportation providers that simply listed them without enough information for her to make the proper call. So I think there's another gap there in communication.
I think to Member Welch's point, just so I'm understanding, this outreach team is just going to be gathering information right now, not giving out information.
Well, they would have materials with them on programs that already exist. So it'd be existing information, like the Way to Go Contra Costa booklet, like the information about the LIFE program, but it wouldn't be new information.
Okay, so like our Mobility on Demand program, if you're
Yeah.
out in East County, you're gonna speak on that?
Well, that's up to you if you want us to, right?
That's what I'm
Yeah,
asking.
so if you want to give us material and say, I'm going to drop off 100 booklets, take it with you when you go, and then I can give you, here's a spreadsheet of every place that person went and what they dropped off and what they heard. That's what we can do. But obviously I'm not the provider, so I'm not going to do that without talking to you.
No, to Member Welch's point, I just don't want anyone to get the wrong information. Because they will call us immediately and say, hey, we were told that you can get a gurney
Yeah.
on a bus. And I'm like, no, you can't put a gurney on a bus.
No, it would be, it's existing information, and really it's information that you want us to give out. So if you feel like this program's oversubscribed, don't promote it, because if 10 people call me today, I can't take them. That's also good for me to know. I think right now, the only ones that I had on the top of my head was the LIFE program and One Seat Ride, and that's, One Seat Ride has its own website, and then LIFE is, I know for you guys, you're a pretty solid list of people. So those are the only two that I had right now.
All right, yeah, we have 6 different programs for that community.
Yeah.
So we'll just talk
Yeah.
offline about it.
Yeah, and if anyone wants to talk offline, or again, if there's materials, or maybe you don't have a material, but you have a program, I can also create a flyer for it. Very flexible on what that looks like.
So when would you like that information?
By the end of the month, if possible.
Okay. So if you have a service that you would like to have communicated across the county by this organization, get back to you by the end of the month with that information?
Yes.
All right, sounds great.
Just one last thing.
Yes.
Before we leave the area, I suggest that we have a post-meeting review such as this, where we have someone like Drennan come in and tell us what the surrounding areas are doing about these very same issues. Because I suspect that they're not a whole heck of a lot different from us. And I'm not so proud that I can't take input from my surrounding communities as to the methodology that they are using to solve their problems.
Yeah, definitely also something that I think, Kevin, you might have brought up at the operators meeting, that like, it would be good to hear what other counties are doing. So I think as a general to-do list, it's looking at what other agencies are doing, and every agency is structured in other counties a little bit differently. So they might be doing something similar, but in a completely different way. But either way, we do want to know what's happening. And I think having Drennan on this committee makes a huge difference, because she does have that regional bird's eye view of what's going on, and also helping with regional coordination where it makes sense and where there's alignment.
I'm just going to add, we meet with every county in the region every month. So there's a group called BACTA, all of the executive directors and all of the planning directors for all of the CTAs meet monthly, and we flag specific topics. So we've spoken specifically about accessibility, and we kind of know what everyone is working on. And we so far, in just the last 2 months, we've had calls with Alameda and Napa to discuss collaborations on and sharing ideas. So we talk pretty constantly.
Share that with us.
It's only the second meeting, so. I think they're getting to it. I think that's part of right, you're gathering the information. And what I'm hearing is gathering the information, and then once you have that, seeing if there's other counties that are having the same, and kind of comparing and contrasting that.
Yeah, and already in the operator calls, because we have Kevin and Kim and Mallory, who are East Bay Paratrans, right? They also have that Alameda County perspective. So sometimes they'll share, well, we don't do this in Contra Costa, but this is what's happening in Alameda. So that's very helpful as well, to just have that perspective.
It's probably pretty simple, but you had asked, so like places you think that
Yeah.
they should go. Obviously, religious communities, if they can, right, and any of your nonprofit or service organizations. Seems to be that those are the people that want to get out and get around town and are going to be able to be able to communicate their transportation needs and wants.
Yeah, I heard Bethel Island, religious institutions, and then nonprofit community-based organizations.
You know, like.
And then
Rotary
Rossmore,
and
I think I also heard
Lions,
maybe.
Rossmore, yeah. Okay. Any comments from the committee before we move to public comment? Yes, Member Toth.
I just feel like there's a lot of older adult advocate people speaking, and I'm curious if that makes sense too in the developmental disabilities world and in the independent living center world. And I think, I'm not sure if Roger is the one that's on from Independent Living Resource Center on, but I just want to make sure that that is being collected as well.
Yeah, I'm doing some thinking and taking notes about maybe for some potential one-on-one follow-up on outreach. The regional center is the organization that provides services for people with developmental disabilities specifically. But I think that I need to think a little bit more in detail about outreach and what that would look like for that group. Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, how soon is this person ready to start doing this outreach work or this organization?
So their first step is to create an outreach and engagement plan that I'll be working with them on, and the hope is that that will be ready by the end of the month. And so hopefully by the beginning of next month, they can start the outreach and going in person. And the goal is one place once a week.
Okay, including evenings and weekends?
Yeah.
Okay, so if there's an event right at the end of this month, that's maybe too soon, but maybe we could talk about it?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay.
If they can't come, I can go. Yeah.
Okay, do we have any public comment on this item?
We do not have any remote public or in-person comment, thank you.
Okay. So, I already did that part like that. And we have one more, Halima. This is our last regular agenda item, which is also an informational item on Measure J.
It's me again. This is a follow-up to the request that Debbie had made at the last meeting to talk a little bit about Measure C and Measure J. So I went back to some of the expenditure plans and just wanted to pull some context. And I think particularly for those who are new to the AAC and who are not on the PCC, this could be helpful information. So I'll start with Measure C, which was the first original measure, and this was done in 1988. It was a 0.5 cent sales tax that went on through 2009, so it was a 20-year period. And this created a list of transportation projects and programs through a voter-approved expenditure plan. And essentially was the reason why CCTA was formed. We were formed to manage this investment, which throughout that period of the tax measure generated $1.1 billion. And so we oversee the design and construction of new projects. We carry out the county's growth management program, also known as GMP. And so we were really formed to hold that work. And then the Measure C in 2009 started to come to an end. And then it was renewed through what is called Measure J. And that renewal happened in 2004. And that goes through 2034 and where we are today with Measure J. Measure C did create some requirements when it was developed. It required cities to adopt a general, in their general plan, a growth management element, which establishes policies that will lead to sustainable growth and promote more efficient coordination of land use, transportation, and infrastructure development. So it was kind of this big urban planning led to make sure that everyone are having some standards on what this looks like. It also required cities to participate in joint planning with other jurisdictions in the county on matters related to growth, and develop a 5-year capital improvement plan to meet or maintain traffic service and performance standards. And so Measure J added a few additional pieces when it was renewed. And Measure J imposes 2 new requirements. The first one is that local jurisdictions must demonstrate reasonable progress in providing housing options for people of all income levels in a periodic report to CCTA, and that cities must adopt an approved, voter-approved urban limit line that complies with the principles of agreement that were established by CCTA. So it kind of creates a limit on where you can develop and where the line is for that, and so cities have to do that. Any questions so far before I continue? Because I know I'm saying a lot of stuff. There's a lot of, terms.
So I just wanted to add, at the time that Measure C was passed, 2.97% of the overall measure went to senior and disabled transportation. We had to, I'm thinking it's a public meeting, I'm just phrasing in my head. We had to develop new friendships with other partners that had nothing to do with accessible transportation to try and lift that, because we did start as senior and disabled advocates to try and get an increase, and it was going nowhere. And there were a bunch of different constituencies, because when we pass sales tax, there are environmental folks, there are bike folks, there are pet folks, there are transit folks, there's a whole ecosystem of people, and urban limit lights are a huge issue whenever a sales tax measure comes up. So we ended up being able to get it lifted to 5%, but I just wanted to level set, and 5% across the board for the full measure. Each one of the regional transportation planning committees in Contra Costa, of which there are 4, had they get some, it's not called return to source, but something along that concept. They get money for their region, and that regional transportation planning committee decides how that allocation, what the expenditure plan looks like for that. In West Contra Costa County, we saw somewhere between 12 and 13% allocated to senior and disabled transportation. In Transpac, in the central region, we saw 1.5%. In Southwest and in East County, 0%. So that's where we are with our current expenditure plan on what is going to senior and disabled transportation. And I think to tell you that more than 30% of the population is senior and or disabled, and that is growing on a daily basis, just gives you sort of a taste of, this is the most expensive form of transportation, and we're under-investing in it radically. So just kind of that, along with federal cuts, along with state cuts, along with all these other things, I think we're doing a lot with very little, and I'm really incredibly pleased with the direction that we're heading, but it's important for folks to understand the funding constraints. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, the context is really important. I believe it's a step scale for this current measure. It started at 3.5% and it builds up to 5%. So it wasn't 5% the whole time. Yeah. So we have 2 programs right under Measure J. We have Program 15, which is the primary main method of us to fund transportation for people with disabilities and older adults. And then we have Program 20, which is where a few of the regional transportation planning committees have some smaller percents. The nice thing about Measure J funds is that it allows us to go beyond the ADA, right? It does fund ADA required, but it also allows us to do enhanced services. Some of the responsibilities of this measure, wanted to kind of go over that a little bit. So CCTA oversees all of the Measure J programs. It is the reason why we exist. And we establish guidelines for funded programs. And the expenditure plan notes that guidelines may require provisions such as maintenance of effort, operational efficiencies, including greater coordination, promoting and developing a seamless service, and a specified minimum allowable fare box return on sales tax extension funded services and reserves for capital replacement. And then the AAC has the responsibility to recommend approval or denial of Program 15 funding based on their review. So we have our Program 15 subcommittee, and that process takes place on an annual basis and is coming up shortly. And then CCTA has the responsibility to approve or deny the claims, withhold funds, or audit recipients if needed. But ultimately, CCTA is responsible to the voters because this is half a cent sales tax. And all of this is written out into the expenditure plan, right, that was approved by the voters. So I did also want to read a small piece from the voter-approved expenditure plan that highlights how between Measure C and Measure J, how the shift took place. And so it says all recipients, all current recipients of Measure C funds will continue to receive their fiscal year 2008 and 2009 share of their base Measure C allocation to continue existing programs if desired, subject to authority confirmation that services are consistent with the relevant policies and procedures adopted by the authority. Revenue growth above the base allocations will be utilized to expand paratransit services and providers eligible to receive these funds. Paratransit funding will be increased from the current 2.97 to 3.5% of the annual sales tax revenue for the first year of the new program. Thereafter, the annual sales tax revenues will increase by 0.10% each year until it gets into 5.9% in 2034 based on a 25-year program. In 2003 dollars, this averages to 4.7% increase over the life of the program, which has been rounded to 5% to provide some flexibility and an opportunity to maintain a small reserve to offset the potential impact of economic cycles. And so this is all, again, written out into the expenditure plan. And I think for those who are new to this committee and new to this space, it's helpful to understand that structure and also what Debbie said about the restraints that we are working with and how much we've been able to do with this pot of money.
Questions about Measure J? Comments?
I also have some info on Program 20, and
Yeah,
happy to share a little bit more details too about that, because I know that one is a smaller piece, but still very important. And also, I do have the line item from the expenditure plan that also says a little bit more about Program 15. So Program 15 is transportation for seniors and people with disabilities. Those funds shall be available for managing the program, retention of a mobility manager, coordination with nonprofit services, establishment or maintenance of a comprehensive paratransit technology implementation plan, and facilitation of countywide travel and integration with fixed route and BART specifically as deemed feasible. So that's everything that's funded under Program 15. Program 20 is additional funding to address non-ADA services or increased demand beyond that anticipated. And this is through the Sub-Regional Transportation Needs Fund category, I think that you are mentioning, based on the recommendations of subregions and a demonstration of the financial viability and stability of the programs that are proposed by prospective operators. CCTA will allocate funds in partnership with the relevant RTPC, and together they establish sub-regional guidelines. So these additional revenues can fund services. Not every RTPC, Regional Transportation Planning Committee, has funds for Program 20. TransPac is the main RTPC, or Regional Transportation Planning Committee, that does allocate funds every 2 years. Elaine is going through that process right now, and so are you, Debbie. And so it's a process that allows us to hear what the projects are, and then there's a scoring committee that the RTPC puts together to make recommendations. Questions?
WCTAC uses the formula from 15 to just give additional funds to their Program 15 recipients with 20B.
So everyone has a different process. That's why 20 is a little bit more complicated.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Who decides, I know can we say RTPCs, have we said it enough now? No, we have TransPac, who has just been an incredible partner of ours for a number of years, and listens to us and really helps us understand that free programs to recipients are not free to provide. And they're great about the 5 or 6 cities they cover. And my first frustration there is not with them, but when I went out and said, okay, who else? Because we're all over the county, and ran into one brick wall after the other. And even over in West County, like you said, they have a very specific thing they do to bring it back into what's already there. And so we really only are supported with programs like ours or Debbie's with TransPac. Who decided that? I'm just curious. Who decided that? Was it TransPac that decided we're going to do this, and everybody else said, no, we're not? I'm just curious how the decisions are made. Do you know that?
There, I can speak to it and not get in trouble. I mean, I may get in trouble, I always get in trouble, but like not the kind of trouble they might get into. So yes, each one of the regional transportation planning committees, those board members that sit there and give you your grant money made a decision about what their expenditure plan was going to entail, just for their portion that they get for their regional transportation dollars, which, by the way, I think is some old algorithm from the original Measure C, so it's not even reflective of current demographics, to be clear. But the members of that RTPC voted on what they were going to spend their money on, and I lobbied every single one of them for aging and disability, transportation, and the SWAT priorities were around children's safe rides to school. So there's a certain amount that they have to do, sort of that community programming. And for trans plan, their priority at that time was BART, bringing BART out to East Contra Costa. So the majority of their funding went that way. I'm sure there were other nuances to that, but it's the elected officials that sit on those RTPC boards that made that decision, and it's through the life of the measure, so through 34. So should another sales tax come up that we want to, the voters to pass, it is incumbent upon the advocates and the transit providers and the transportation authority to educate folks about what the needs are in those areas, so it's not a lone voice going to all of these and begging and not getting anywhere, but like that's why I think Ryan's presentation was so powerful. If every one of them saw that, when they were given options on how to spend money, they would have said, we need to allocate some money here. Like, I think that would be different thinking. So I do believe there will be another sales tax measure before this one sunsets that will allow us the opportunity to educate and engage to get more funding for this particular area. Is that safe enough?
You are the living, breathing expenditure plan.
So I wasn't there, but I do keep it in my hands all the time. But I do think it's important just to expand on what you touched on. East County's plan, or their needs were extending BART. And so a lot of our operational capital funds went towards that, or the funds we would have received from Measure J. So when we talk about not being able to serve seniors and veterans, disabled folks in the outlying areas of Bethel Island, for example, or Discovery Bay, for example, those funds that we would have had 30 years ago went to BART because it needed to be extended. That was the focus. So to Debbie's point, as the new measure comes into focus, we should be thinking about how other parts of the county that we weren't thinking about have grown. And the population has doubled, tripled in the last 30 years. And a lot of those folks are seniors, a lot of those folks are disabled, a lot of those folks are veterans that we now need to provide services for.
Yeah, and these tax measures are 20-year periods, so you're now projecting what is it going to look like in 20 years, not just today. And that's also really important.
Do you have any other comments about Measure J?
I was just going to add one more thing. We're also in a different ecosystem now than we were then. We have the Transportation Authority being led by somebody who understands the need for a balance between programs and projects. Before, historically, CCTA was project, project, project. So I think we're in a unique opportunity, and if we don't capitalize on it, then it's our bad. Historically, it was not our bad. Moving forward, we know better, and we have the right leadership, so I think it's doable if we all continue to show up and educate. Thank you.
I do want to say, too, that it was absolutely brought up, which I liked in the workshop. You know, you see 2034, you're like, yeah, but I liked that in the workshop, it had said, okay, so 2034, so we're planning now for what we're going to do for that. So I thought that was also very encouraging, and as Member Toth had said, seeing that kind of leadership and having that come from CCTA, not the user, but the recipients, but to come from CCTA was great. Any other questions about how Measure J was set up and how Measure J functions?
I have just one simple question here. Since the Measure J was before my time here, what percentage of a sales tax is that?
It's a 0.5 cent sales tax.
So it was a continuation of Measure C?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's all I need to know. Thank you.
Do we have anybody from the public that would like to comment on this?
We do not have anybody from the public or remote, thank you.
Okay, and no written.
No written.
All right, thank you. Well, that concludes our regular agenda items. We have our other standing agenda items. One was the transit operator update. Do we have any transit? I know we had a lengthy discussion last time about what that's going to include, and I think part of that was maybe the people from the committee asking specifically so that a or all transit operators could respond to that the next meeting. So one, I'd like to see, are there any transit operator updates that the transit operators themselves would like to give?
How do you want to do this? You want to start in alphabetical order? I'm at the end. No, actually.
Go
yeah,
ahead.
No, sorry. Rashidi Barnes, TriDelta Transit. Once again, I'm glad to be here, and thank you all for having me. It's been a great conversation. I do want to introduce Maisha Williams. She's our new manager of accessible transportation. She can come tell us a little bit about herself.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Maisha Williams. Can you hear me? It's good?
There you go.
It's better? My name is Maisha Williams. I've been a part of the TriDelta Transit family for nearly 10 years, but on the contractor side. So I just recently joined the team on the client side, of course. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm sorry, I'm a little stuffy, got allergies, so please excuse me. I have been in transit for nearly 30 years plus. I started out in San Francisco, paratransit agency, and kind of worked my way on up the line, and here I am. And it's a pleasure to be here, and I look forward to working with you all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
So I wanted to bring her up because she'll be our new alternate and participating, and as well also gives her an opportunity to start putting faces to names as you guys call and ask for information with regards to TriDelta Transit and our services and things like that. Someone asked, one of the directors asked about funding. I think we can all talk about it a little bit. We are all facing large financial hills, I guess I should say. BART may be facing a financial cliff. But TriDelta Transit, for example, we know there's going to be some operating funds that we have historically received. They're going to go away starting in July. Our goal is to continue to try to provide as much service as possible with the limited funds that we will have. So as we go through that process, we plan on taking our new budget to our board in April. And once we have that approved budget and any kind of cuts or any kind of service augmentations, we'll definitely bring it to this committee so that you're aware of it. And that's my report.
Any other transit operators?
Sure, I'd be happy to go next. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Once again, Kevin McDonald with BART. And just to let you all know, since this is an accessibility advisory committee, I'll be reporting both from the stance of BART overseeing the East Bay Paratransit as a paratransit operator, as well as BART as a fixed route transit operator. So first, some BART news. I mentioned this at our last meeting, but I do have a little bit more specifics that we, BART, are inviting members of the blind and low vision community to a sensory orientation event that is going to be happening at our 19th Street BART station in Oakland. It'll be on March 25th at between noon and 1:30. So we'd love for members of the blind and low vision community to pop in anytime during that time. And when I say pop in, we do ask that folks RSVP. So I've sent information about the event to the CCTA, and I would ask that they share that with the members, so you can get specific information about I think that the email is going to include a news article that goes more into detail about the event, as well as provides the link to RSVP. We'd love to have members of this committee, and especially if you know folks in your community who would benefit from an event like this, where we help to orient folks to the station, to show and, well, one, to gather feedback, but also to show in a sort of hands-on way how to orient and navigate our system as a blind and low vision community rider. And we do also expect some tabling at the event. We know that MTC is going to be tabling, as well as our East Bay Paratransit will have our travel trainer tabling at the event as well. So we'd love to have as many folks as are willing to RSVP. So that's some BART news. And then also, we had previously piloted some new chimes, entry-exit chimes at our fare gates at a few stations. Make sure that it's calibrated in a way that is audible, detectable, and usable by riders, with the idea being that if you are sight impaired, you may not necessarily know when our fare gates open, because fortunately and unfortunately, they are quieter than the old metal clanking ones. And so to remedy that, we added chime sounds, so that if you hold your Clipper card to the reader for a split second or a second longer, once it opens, if you hold your card there for a second longer, it will chime with an ascending sound to let you know it's safe to enter. And then when you're exiting the station, with a descending sound to let you know to exit. So those chimes have now, we had been piloting them for the past few months, and as of March 2nd, they are now live throughout the system. So you will experience those chimes if you hold your card down a second longer when you enter the fare gates. And let's see, next I can move on to some East Bay Paratransit announcements. So one, we had some really productive conversations with Halima, our paratransit operators, and thank you for setting those up. I think it's a wonderful idea, partly because I'm relatively new at BART, but also because this committee is new, and it's one of the few times that we get together as operators to talk about what we're already doing, in addition to what we could potentially do in the future with the ATSP, Accessible Transportation Strategic Plan initiatives. So I just wanted to report out that some of them we talked about that we're already doing. Strategy number one seat rides. We do, BART, East Bay Paratransit does provide one seat ride service for WestCat all day on Sundays, and then also during the off-peak hours on other days, like Monday through Saturday. And so on those days when, in the period where BART and AC Transit are operating, but WestCat is not, we do provide one-seat rides into the WestCat territory. So we are doing one-seat rides there. We also do one-seat rides service with San Francisco. And the way that relates to Contra Costa is that if someone is taking a ride from within the Contra Costa portion of our service area, they can also take a one-seat ride into and back from San Francisco. And then that also, I believe, fits into strategy 4, which is service beyond the ADA service area. And so those, yeah. So anyway, just wanted to point out that some strategies are already in effect. And then we also have travel training that we provide through the East Bay Paratransit office. That's been ongoing since fall of 2024. Luckily, we do also get funding for that program through the Alameda Measure BB. And let's see. Well, I guess I'll yield for now. We're also going to be reporting out later on in the agenda on the EBPAC, East Bay Paratransit Accessibility Committee. So I will yield the rest of my report until then. Yeah, we used to have an EBPAC report on the agenda, is that correct?
Yes, we do.
Okay, all right, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yes?
Hi, good afternoon. I just wanted to share from the County Connection paratransit program. We are reviewing and revising our eligibility process for Link paratransit passengers. We're trying our hardest to make it a lot more user-friendly. So things like online submission forms will be included. We're making our application, I would say, removing the roadblock of having to have a professional verification form included initially in the application. That piece is going to go away because it is proven to be sometimes a roadblock for applicants. And the other piece is we are incorporating our eligibility specialists to go out into the community along with our customer service representatives who conduct mobile lobby events throughout Central Contra Costa as a way to have someone more experienced with answering a lot of the questions related to Link paratransit. And so we're promoting the live program that way and hopefully a travel training program in the future as well. So we're doing that several times throughout the month. We have, generally speaking, mobile lobby events, maybe about 2 times per week. So we're trying to at least send out our eligibility specialists to do those throughout the month. And yes, touching back to contingency plans related to financial constraints should the regional measure not pass. County Connections also in the process of developing a plan should that not come through. And so I think earlier someone touched about demographics, and we're looking at our own service area because we do have a lot of passengers who we transport who are well outside of the ADA barrier, the 3/4 of a mile, even the 1.5 mile. So that's something that recently John worked on, drafting different tiers of service areas that we're currently doing. But yeah, that's my update for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other
I
updates?
guess. So, one thing Kevin didn't mention is Kevin and my staff have a meeting set up to see if we can work a little bit more on some of the coordination between our 2 services, just some of those connections. Similarly, I actually just got an email during this meeting. I've got a meeting with Soltrans for the same, just to see if we can improve some of those connections, because they are, particularly going outside the county, they can be a little bit sticky, a little few issues to resolve. We are in the process of upgrading our phone system, which is long overdue. We have known about some issues just in terms of the quality of service we provide with our phone service. So we are working on that project right now. Hopefully have that installed very soon. And then similarly, we are working on potential service changes over the next year. We actually have a comprehensive operation analysis that we're calling Westcat Evolution that we've been working on for the last year to kind of completely reevaluate our entire services, because it hasn't been looked at for the 32 years that we kind of first put our routes together. So it's a little bit in flux because of the funding situation. We really don't know. We have all these plans to roll out improved service, but don't really want to do that if that comes at a cost of cutting service. So we're kind of trying to balance when we're going to do that. But I think at the time, when we do have that, I think it'd be really good for this board to hear that presentation. It's not completely focused on accessible transportation, but I think it's an overall service analysis that would be good to hear. So.
Okay, I'll do one.
Just to build on what Rosa talked about, and it's been mentioned a few times already today, the one-seat program. We may want to, if it's okay with the chair, do a presentation on the one-seat program, so that we can, so that this group can be can understand what we actually are doing with the one seat. So we can talk amongst ourselves, but I think that it'll be probably beneficial if we did it, because then we can field questions, and then also, when we're talking about gaps in the service area, hopefully we can talk through that as well. That's always tied to any presentation I do.
We'll put that on the future agenda item list. All right. Gene Clark, City of San Pablo, a small non-ADA requirement transit program. We actually just implemented our new software system. We've been doing that. We've been getting a lot of great data, and we're just really impressed with the way that a lot of our seniors have been embracing texting and that kind of stuff to get information back and forth. We've got a lot of great volunteers that have been helping seniors do that, and it really has I don't know about surprisingly, but it really has increased or reduced our missed rides, timing, all that kind of stuff for our patrons. They're really liking it, so I'm excited to see kind of the statistics that come out of that. From last year, we also are training a volunteer dispatcher, because we have one person that does it all the reporting, all the everything, all the dispatching, all of that. So we've got a volunteer that's very excited, was a former AC Transit bus driver. So that person's going to come in and start helping so that we can also continue to actually do some outreach ourselves, which we've been really excited to do, which we just staffing-wise haven't been able to do. So short and sweet.
Can I ask what the software is called?
Yeah, we went with TripSpark, and they have a number of them, and we took Novus. So they have a number of different programs. How can I not remember what we had before? It's only been 2 months. But anyway, they bought the company that we were using before, and so kind of, yeah, but, you know, we're a very, very small outfit, so it works really well. Do we have any other transit operator updates before we go to East Bay Paratransit Access Committee? Okay, take it away.
All right, hello again, everyone. Kevin McDonald with BART, reporting for East Bay Paratransit on our EBPAC, which is what I'll call it. It is the East Bay Paratransit Access Committee. We had our last meeting, our most recent meeting on March 3rd, 2026, where presentations, I'll just give you a high level, that presentations included an emergency preparedness program and a recap of a recent emergency preparedness drill that occurred earlier this year. Our typical paratransit brokers report on operating and service statistics. I also reported on our paratransit software replacement project, which, as you've just gone through, and we are in the middle of going through, replacing the paratransit software for EBP from previously using Adept and moving to a software called Spare, with all of the meetings and challenges and design and scope work that goes into that. But fortunately, we are close to the finish line, at least on the first phase, expecting a May 1st launch of that product. And I call it first phase because it is a staff-facing change, where it's an improvement to a staff-facing software. And we do intend to explore options for a phase 2 that may include customer-facing features as well. Let's see, and then we also, my counterpart at AC Transit, Mallory Nestor Brush, reported out on our Alameda Measure BB application, which is done annually. And then also just want to make a plug here that the East Bay Paratransit Access Committee is recruiting new members. We do have a number of vacancies. Many of them are open to folks in the Contra Costa County. We have a vacancy for a Western Contra Costa County rider. So this would be someone who is ADA paratransit eligible and lives in the cities of, well, you know, within our parts of Western Contra Costa County. That would include El Cerrito, Richmond, San Pablo. And so if you are or know of a rider that fits that category, please encourage them to apply. We also actually have a vacancy for a representative from this committee, formerly the PCC, now the AAC. Again, a member to serve on that committee as well, to serve in the EBPAC as well as a Contra Costa County city-based paratransit operator. There is a vacancy for a position there. And, yeah, so if any of these are speaking directly to your soul, I definitely encourage you to apply. And then also social services agency representatives. We do have 2 vacancies. Typically, there's one from Alameda, one from Contra Costa. So we do have vacancies for those positions as well. To apply, easiest way, well, you can always reach me directly, and I'll make sure you get in touch with the correct person. But we do have a staff that receives and lets you know the application process. And her name is Ana Cisneros. And so you can email her directly at A for Ana, Cisneros, CISNEROS, at paratransit.org. Or you can visit our website, eastbayparatransit.org, and at the bottom of that page, there's a link called Rider Advisory Committee, and you can view more information about the committee, and you can actually pull up the application from there. So just wanted to make a plug that we do have a number of vacancies. It is a great committee. It's a great way to guide our work in East Bay Paratransit, and we'd love to have folks either from this committee or from your communities who want to help guide our work. And that is it from the EBPAC report.
Kevin,
Back to you, Madam Chair.
in regards to those positions right here, especially the last one on the Rider Accessibility Committee, are they hybrid meetings?
Those meetings are hybrid. Members can attend in person or remotely. We meet in the East Bay Paratransit office, which is in Midtown Oakland at 17th and Broadway. But there you can also attend remotely by Zoom.
And how frequently are these meetings?
They meet once every 2 months. Some years it's like January, March, May, and then some other years it's February, April, June, and so on. But yeah, we would make sure, I think we post the schedule, but we'll make sure that anyone interested gets the exact
I
schedule.
ask because I have a few people in mind here, but you know, sometimes they don't like to go out after dark. And how far they have to go to get there for, what is these meetings, or 2 hours?
Yeah, they typically take about 2 hours. They are in the middle of the day.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not at night. They're midday.
Okay, well, that's a good thing here. Don't need to worry about the werewolves and vampires. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or comments on that? Okay. And then, does anybody who attended the most recent or have comments about the Senior Mobility Action Council?
I do here.
Member Harris.
Madam
Brian
Chair.
Harris.
For those right here who do not know, that I am the co-chair for SMAC, which is stands for Senior Mobility Action Council here. And as I reported last month, we were planning a workshop for the month of June. We do have an update on that. Unfortunately, we've had to put this event on hold. And as the preliminary request for funding needs to clear through the AAA, Area Agency on Aging. So as much as we would like, we have plenty of time, as we all know here, you know, things go through on business days, and holidays do not count. So having the likelihood of having the funding by June would not be feasible here, so. But it is the vision of the county to have another transportation workshop before the end of this year. And it's viewed here to be each region here to educate seniors and the aging disabled here, to show them everything that we're talking about here, expressing ridership, that it is safe, it's comfortable, and affordable. So that's our vision here. And then the latest update here, as I just was reading here, as it's come in right here, it appears that my chair is taking medical leave, And yours truly has been promoted here. It will be done here at next month's meeting here. And it looks like I'll be acting chair for an interim period of 6 months here, so. Not that I'm tooting my horn here, but, all right.
Well, congratulations on the double duty.
Thank you very much, Gene.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? The funding request has to go through the county for what, for the venue? Because it's just a 2-hour workshop, right?
Yeah, the venue is okay.
Got to turn yourself
The
on.
venue is okay here. We have the venue clear for the Lafayette Library, and that is not an issue. The issue is the funding that we need for food, and that we need to go through the proper protocols to have the certain documentation signed off. And they had not been done, for the simple fact right here that we did not know that there was a task list or a checklist that we needed to follow. Since a lot of us right here that are on that committee or of a next generation, we were not provided that information. And when we had everything all done, it was later corrected here by the executive director of the AAA that we needed to double back right here and had to get her approval. And right now here, since some of the funding is coming from, the ACOA, the Advisory Council on Aging, which is actually coming through the AAA, the Area Agency on Aging, we just have to go through the right channels to get signed off.
We'll talk about that offline. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a learning curve, and trust me.
All right. Any other questions about that? Do we have any? Actually, it's just a report. We don't have public comment. So moving on to the next item, which is correspondence and communication. I don't believe we have any that got sent in.
That's correct, we don't have any. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. Final is future agenda items. I just wanted to mention that we got a offer of doing a one-seat ride update for next month or the month after.
We'll talk about it, and then we'll get back to you in terms of when we can do it.
Oh, okay, okay. So future agenda item.
I would definitely like to learn more about that and take it back to Richmond, back to our paratransit division here, and I'll be happy to share that with Gabino, who's actually online.
And then the one thing that I had too was, just a measure, we did a Measure J update, but I know like the claim forms and that kind of stuff are coming up. And I believe, and I don't think it has to come to this committee, but I believe last year we got a lovely memo that said, based on what we see, these are the estimates for the next year. I'm sure the transit operators would love to see that, so. Do we have anything else for future agenda items that people would like to see?
I have a couple.
Go ahead. Staff
We can
member.
come back with the demographics. I know that was a request too.
Yeah, okay, demographics, great.
I would like to have a spare PowerPoint or presentation, get an update on that transition to spare from BART, East Bay Paratransit.
Yeah, just like a progress update
Yeah, or
on,
just since this is a new group, I think it'll be important for them to also just get a background on how you guys ended up where you're at, the progress, and what the future looks utilizing that platform.
Sure, I'd be happy to. I may kind of recycle the presentation I've done to the EV Pack, but yeah, I'd be happy to present that to this group.
And then the Trip Spark texting cancellation, is that what it is?
No, it's just texting back and forth for like your ride is arriving, that kind of stuff.
Okay,
That's,
can you cancel through the Trip Spark program?
yes.
Okay, I would like to see that too, because we don't have that. and
I'd be
we-
happy to share
Okay,
that
yeah,
with you. I mean, I think that like we can share the different platforms, but they're all different and they don't affect other transit agencies. But I'd be more than happy to show that to you and, yeah.
Yeah, we just want to improve our service. And so any platform that's out there that can help us improve our service, if
And
we
you're
can
looking
see
to
it,
do new software?
we're looking for everything.
Anything else? Okay, then that is it. That concludes our meeting. We adjourn.